Hey, Joe Previtt here. Welcome to the channel. If it's your first time, my name is Joe Previtt. Super fascinated with learning languages. It's kind of my passion. And today's video, I wanted to talk about a recent goal that I completed, which was 20 hours of vlogs or vlogcitos in Spanish with a YouTuber named Nicolas de Tracy. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to talk about the goal, how I tracked it, why I did it, what my expectations were, and how it went. So if you're interested, hang around or stick around. This one's going to be a little bit less edited, so to speak, just because we recently had my second child, so time is a lot more limited. And I just want to do kind of a quick thing, quick recap, essentially. So first is, what was the goal? And let me zoom in a little bit on here. So recently I did a video after I did 80 hours with my language parent. So if you're not familiar with a language parent, it's essentially somebody that you spend a lot of time with in your target language. So in my case, Spanish. So I spent 80 hours listening to a podcast. I talked about it here. I won't talk about it again, but it was this podcast called Antes que Nadie. And the language parent, the person who I want to imitate, his name is Diego Leuco, who is kind of the main host. There are 4 hosts in this podcast, but he's kind of the main guy. And so one of my takeaways from that was there's still some training I want to do with my ears, or my listening skills, rather. Because a lot of this is like podcast mics, which are really good, really crisp, really high quality. And I noticed that sometimes when they would play WhatsApp audios, which, somebody just recording on their phone, right, like this, the audios weren't super clear, and sometimes I'd get lost or I wouldn't understand them. And so I was like, let's try and train with lower quality audio. And so the idea was to spend 20 hours watching vlogcitos. So Nicolas de Tracy, to give some background, he's a comedian, does stand-up. And one of the cool things that he does is, when he's on tour, he records these vlogs. So you'll get a little bit of, him on the road, stopping at a restaurant, and then you'll get a little bit of his show. And so I thought this would kind of be a good... of course, there's an ad. But I thought this would be kind of a good way to kind of improve my listening. Because when he does the vlogging, right, he's in front of a camera. It's like a vlog style, but sometimes he's away from it. Sometimes they're in the car. And so, yeah, that was kind of the goal. That was what I was aiming, was to practice hard listening. So I wanted to do it within 30 days, started on February 12th. Wanted to finish it before March 12th, which I did. I used Toggle to track, and I did it all of February, basically. So 20 hours and 10 minutes. And kind of just did it when I was watching TV with my wife. She'll watch her own show, I'll watch mine. And I kind of just followed this playlist. If we come to here. So he's got this Vlogcitos de Stand-Up playlist. So it's super easy. You can see the red bar under these. Watched I don't even know how many. 35. So yeah, some are 30 minutes, some are 45. But yeah, that was kind of the goal. I talked about tracking it. How'd it go? I don't think that it was as efficient as I thought it was going to be. Because one thing I didn't really think about is, 80% of these vlogcitos are stand-up, part of his stand-up show. And on the stand-up show, he's got a decent mic, and there's captions, and they're hard, or they're subtitles, I guess, and they're hard subtitles, so you can't remove them. So I found myself reading those a lot just by nature, versus the podcast that I was listening before. There's, you can turn on captions, but I had them off, so it really trained my ear a lot more. This, I almost went down a little bit because I had the subtitles. The parts of the vlogcito, those were good, but it wasn't the majority of the video. So that's kind of one of the downsides. 20 hours, decent chunk. Like, again, I did 80 with the language parent. At the 50-hour mark, I had a noticeable difference. There was a noticeable difference in my listening. With this, it was like 20 was decent. It was like cool because it was like, okay, I can do this in 3 weeks. But anyways, it was good. The other kind of takeaway that I had was, and this sounds pretty obvious saying it out loud, but like the more time you spend with certain types of people, the more you want to be like them. So watching this, I was like, oh man, like I want to be funny like him. I want to do stand-up. And started, one night I was like looking for YouTube videos about like how to be a stand-up comedian, but in Spanish, of course. So that was kind of fun. The other cool thing that he's good at, the way that he does his stand-up, is he'll call on people on the show. He'll be like who here is from a different country? So whatever he's saying, he'll be like, you, like maestro. And then he'll start talking to them. And so it's a lot of like, I don't want to say icebreaker questions, but like just being able to like ask a question, get a response, ask a question, get a response. Kind of like provoking conversation, if you will. And I liked that because sometimes when I'm talking to my daughter, who's 2.5, like I have to really like push her to talk in Spanish sometimes. Like sometimes she'll come and just, spit a whole essay out at me. Other times it's just short answers. And so I thought that was good, this kind of like icebreaker style, because it was like, okay, if I'm using Spanish in public at a playground talking to another parent, like I felt more comfortable. So I liked that aspect of this. So that was another takeaway from doing these 20 hours of Vlogcitos. I think that's it. That's kind of all I really wanted to talk about here. I haven't figured out what my next passive listening goal is going to be, just because, and I like passive listening just because I do a lot of it. Like I can listen while I'm at work. I can listen or watch a show while I'm with my wife in the evenings, doing yard work or at the gym. So I like having a goal around passive learning. For output, I just started this today, actually. Let me see if I can find it, or if I can pull up the link real quick. I started like a blog. And this was inspired by a Refill tutorial. Basically just a way for me to practice outputting. So I wrote my first blog post today. So I'm going to be doing that for kind of more of the active study. Passive study I'll still got to figure out that goal, but when I do, I'll come up with a plan, similar to what I did before, and I'll make a video about it. So anyways, that's all. Hope you enjoy this. Thanks for listening to me kind of summarize how this went. And if you have any questions, drop them in the comments below and say hi. I've met a few people who have subscribed and said hi, and I'm hoping those turn into friendships. So cool. Thanks all. Catch you later.